Hey everybody, today I have a Cub Cadet 24-inch 2-stage snowblower. This one here actually has power steering. It's got the little power steering things to make it help you turn. So you can see there's an inch of dust on this. The guy, I guess, said he couldn't get it started. So let's first check on the gas. And he does have gas in it, of course. It's kind of yellow. It doesn't look that great. And actually, it doesn't smell that bad, but it is kind of yellow. All right, so let's put the cap back on. Let's check the motor oil. It's full and super clean. As you can see, this here looks like a brand new machine. You can tell by none of the paint is worn off. That's got a little damage right there, so maybe used once. Oh, look at that. He's already missing a pin. One of the pins is missing, so that one's good. The pin's missing there. That one's good, but we're missing one shear pin on that one. He hit something. Oh, that's what he did. The blade's actually bent. If you look at the blade. So I'll straighten that out. He definitely hit a rock or something. This one looks okay, but he hit that. I'll bend that back straight, and he's gonna have to get a set of pins for it. I don't think the machine has it. Does it actually, doesn't say what size the motor is. It just says Cub Cadet. So let me get a extension cord and we'll crank it over and see if it does anything at all. Alrighty, so I have the extension cord hooked up to the electric start on the machine. So let's come over. I noticed that it has a spare key here, but it does have a key in it. So let's make sure the key, okay, the key is in. The throttle is on rabbit. Choke and run. So it's on choke. Let's hit the primer bulb a bunch of times. I don't see a, this is just like that other machine I did, so there's no fuel shut off. So let's put you over here in the stand and let's give it a whirl and see what it does. All right, absolutely nothing. So let me get a spark tester and we'll check the spark, but probably it's because they left fuel in it and the carburetor's gonna be clogged up. So, but let me get a spark tester, we'll check the spark next. Alrighty, I have my spark tester here and I'll show you how to use it. It's got a little flashy light in here. When I walked around this side of the machine, I could smell the bad gas from cranking it over. But let's go ahead and disconnect the plug wire. This plugs in here. And then this plugs back onto the plug. And now this will flash to let you know you have spark. So let me see. Yep, and here we go. Let's push the button. And we have spark. Let's see, could you see that? Let me do that for you guys. Yep, got spark. So we're definitely having a fuel problem with this one. So we are going to have to, let's pull out the carburetor drain and see what the drain plug looks like. That'll usually give you a tell. So the float bowl is right here. It should have a, yeah, that one there's the drain and that one holds float bowl on. We'll go ahead and we're gonna have to pull the carburetor off. So there's no sense in playing around. So we're gonna go ahead and pull this cover off. This cover here, it's got a bolt here, a bolt there, and 2 bolts, or 1 bolt over there, so like 3 bolts. Then you put the throttle in the middle because there's a cutout, so it'll slide out. So we'll slide this part off so we can get to the carburetor. So I'll go ahead and pull this thing off and come back. All right, some people complain that I don't show everything that I do, so we'll make this one a longer video. Okay, and if you look at the bolts that I took out, there's 2 long and there's 2 short. The short ones go here, the long one goes up here. Just the camera a little bit. Goes here, and another one goes down there. So there's 4 bolts. Now the choke housing just pulls off straight up, that comes out. Now like I said, with the throttle, it has got a cut hole up in here where the throttle will come out, so you don't have to pull this handle off. There are some machines where you have to pull them off. So you slide this back, and you want to look in here and find out where the wires go. And there is that primer bulb line inside here that is holding me from moving any farther over. So I'm going to have to get that disconnected. You do not want to break that. Let me go ahead and put it here. Alright, so I just used a pair of needle nose to get in there and unplug it. So now that I have that unplugged, this should be long enough just to lay out of the way, so you don't have to worry about those wires there. You want to unhook it from here. You know what's funny about all these snow blowers? They're all made by the same company, and yet everything's a little bit different. This is different from the last one I did. So now, snow blowers do not have air filters, because if the air filter gets wet, it will freeze and you'll not get any gas. So this is just the air inlet right back here. To get this off without breaking the choke handle, there's 2 Phillips screws here and here that we need to remove, and then this will come off, and then there's 2 10s, and then the carburetor should start sliding out. Let me put you back there, and let me go get a Phillips, which I forgot. Alright, so you take out this Phillips screw, and then there's another Phillips screw on the other side. Once you take out the 2 Phillips screws, this top piece will slide off. Like I said, see, there's no air filter. No air filter. So now there's 2 more 10 nuts. All right, this is the PCV line. And you got to be careful of that too. It's got little metal inserts in the plastic, so you don't crush the plastic, that just comes off. So I'll just put the metal insert right back in here where it belongs. It just falls right back into place. I don't know how it came out there. It just goes like this. All right, so the gasket for the air cleaner is right here. Well, it's not really an air cleaner, it's just a cleaner. I'm going to pull that off, lay that there out of the way. We got to get the fuel line off here, but like I said, there is no fuel shut off on this one. So if I disconnect this line, it's gonna start leaking gas everywhere. And on these machines here, I found out I can put a fuel filter right here, and that's what I'm planning on doing. Let's get this loose. All right, I'm gonna have to go get a pair of pinch off pliers to pinch this off, so it doesn't leak the fuel out everywhere. Let me go get a pair of pinch-off pliers. Tires are flat air too. Let's walk over to my cart here. And we'll get the needle nose vice grips. And We'll pinch the line. We gotta loosen this up a little bit. Let's try that. I don't know if that's actually enough or not. Let me put both hands on. Yeah, there, that's good. Okay. So now that we got the fuel line pinched off, you see what I'm doing here. It's kind of hard to put you in a position to show you what I'm doing. But there we go. So now I gotta get this off. Should have a little bit of gas here. Yeah, see how yellow and nasty that gas is? We're gonna have to drain the tank. That's all right. So now I'm gonna go ahead and slide the carburetor off. So now we have the linkage we have to deal with. So on this one here, let me get this line on the other side of the cable. All right, so as you pull the carburetor out, great, it disconnected the wrong place. Let's see if I can get the intake to stay. There we go. So as you slide this out, the throttle body butterfly opens up right here, and then as it turns open, you can get that linkage piece out. It'll just lift up. Boom, done. You have a spring, pair of needle nose, grab it, spring, disconnect. Now don't let this go flying back, because you don't want it to disconnect inside the engine and you'll have a mess. Then you have to take the whole from the engine apart. So now this should slide right on off. Let's take a look at the gasket. The gasket is still in one piece. I'll just set that down for a second. Now this popped off, so I want to take a peek at this and make sure that the gasket didn't mess up. Well, it looks like I'm going to have to take this bar loose to check. To make sure that that gasket didn't mess up. That's the wrong size. I think it's okay, but it's a 8mm underneath here. I'm gonna take that off and I'm gonna double check that gasket. All right, so we've got the carburetor off. That gasket came out in one piece. We're gonna have to drain the gas out. Let me get this on the workbench and we'll start taking it apart, and I'll get this one 8mm bolt out down here so I can double check to make sure that that gasket did not rip. Alrighty, so I did pull the intake manifold off the engine just to make sure that I didn't rip this gasket. That gasket is still good, so I'll put this back on, not gonna worry about it. So here we go, we got the carburetor right here. Let's go ahead, and this gasket turned out good. Don't have to worry about that gasket. Let's get this popped out of here. Can't get it broken free. There it goes. All right, so that's the drain on the float bowl that nobody seems to use, and this is the bolt that holds the float bowl on, and you can see the nasty yellow gas coming out of this. It's really smells bad. All right, so yep, and then you can always look at this and see the schmeg on there. It's all going to be clogged up. Oh yeah, it's all going to be clogged up. All right, let's get that float bowl off. Yep. And there's the float bowl. It should look like that, but it looks like this. So it's all clogged up in there. They did not drain the gasoline out of the machine after they used it. And I'm gonna have to drain all the fuel out of the tank because I do believe it's contaminated. But look at the fuel that came out of the carburetor. It's pretty nasty. So what we'll go ahead and do is we'll knock out the drain. And we have my gunk parts cleaner, carburetor cleaner. We'll just go ahead and, okay, see what it looks like. We're not even gonna wipe it down or do nothing. We're just gonna throw it in there and let that soak. And we need to, here, G Junior, why don't you just pour that in the oil? It ain't gonna hurt anything, just that little bit. All right. So this is the float bowl rod. We're gonna push this over and see if I can get it out. Okay, there, that's out. So now we're gonna lift the float, and that's the needle. See how clogged up and nasty it is there? There's a big piece of nasty stuff right here. It's all nasty there. So we got all that out. It's all nasty up in here where the main jet is. We got to get that out. Well, let me go ahead and put all the parts in my little tray here. So I can't remember, is this the screwdriver I used? So there is a jet up in here. So we're going to try to get this jet out. There we go. Oh, it's all gummy. It's very gummy in here. And you can see some of the stuff that came out through the hole there. So we're trying to get the jet to come out. Oh, come on, baby, come on out of there. Up there, it's starting to come out. And you can see the hole is completely clogged. You cannot see through it. So there's the jet, and then there is the emulsion tube that comes out this way. So we have all that taken care of. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take the, can I get a clean rag? I got it. We're gonna take the jet, put it in there. We're going to take the emulsion tube and put it in there. We're going to let that all soak. Now, I also am going to have to clean all this stuff off, but this has a rubber tip, so you do not want to soak that in gum cutter. But I can take it apart. There's a spring, you got to be careful. It just slides out. Then the spring will come off of here. So I'm going to put that there so I don't lose the spring. Look at this. All this stuff has got to come off and clean, so I'll use a can of gum cutter for that. And then all this stuff is going to have to be cleaned off. Usually I just use my nail to get the most of it off, because this is all dried up, varnished up gasoline. Oops, sorry, you can't see what I'm doing. I'm just going to take my nail and clean that all out. So let's see what else we got. Oh, so there's another jet here. This is the idle speed screw. So you need to pay attention. You need to look how far that is sticking through, which is about 1 thread. Or what you can do is you can count the turns in and then put it the same amount of turns out. So let's do that. So there's a half, there's 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5. So basically you want to unscrew this 5 turns after you put that in all the way. I usually like to take and write it down on the workbench so I know. All right. So now that you got that out, you don't need to do anything without or clean that. We have to pop this jet up. It'll just pop out. All right, pull that out. And there's a jet up in there that's probably clogged. It's all green inside there. So it does have an O-ring. I'll use gum cutter and a tip torch cleaning tool to clean out this. We'll set that over here. So I don't like soaking the whole bodies because you have plastic plastic, plastic. So you could see how deep you really need to go. I'm going to go ahead and pull this rubber O-ring out if I can get it to come out. Pocket screwdriver time. There's a rubber O-ring right here. This is the float bowl O-ring that I'm going to take out. I'm going to reuse it, put that over there. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to take, and I have a wire. I'm going to tie the carburetor up. All right, so I got my wire on here, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set it in here just enough to cover everything. So I have my wire hooked up to my traffic light just enough so the carburetor is only submerged just enough to clean what's dirty. And then I also will blow everything out and use gum cutter. So, G Junior, where's the straw? You can get the straw in there? Well, that doesn't help me any. So the rest of these parts, I'll just use some 2+2 gum cutter on and start cleaning everything up. So I'm probably gonna let the carburetor soak overnight in the stuff, and I'll clean all the stuff up, and then I'll show you what like I said, I use a torch tip cleaner to clean this out. And when I go, I'll blow everything off, get everything clean, and I'll start the reassembly tomorrow after everything's cleaned up. All right, while I have everything soaking overnight on the carburetor, I thought I'd go ahead and start draining some of the gas out of this, and you can just see how nasty it is. Of course, the tank's full. How much does this hold? Like a half a gallon in these?
Well, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Does it look like there's really anything floating around in there, or does it look pretty clean otherwise?
There's some stuff at the bottom of the gas tank. I'd have to stick a fuel filter in it.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna put a fuel filter in it.
See, it's like all the shiny stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see.
Hard to put on camera.
Yeah. And you can see how nasty yellow that is. You know, regular unleaded does have a color to it, but it shouldn't be that nasty. Hey, can you grab the camera for me so I can shut this line off? So it shouldn't be that bright yellow. So it doesn't smell too bad because he put new gas on top of old gas, but once you put new gas on top of old gas like this, it never is right. So we got to drain it all out. So we'll get this all drained out and we'll come back tomorrow and finish putting the carburetor back together. And so we'll see you in a minute. Alrighty, unfortunately it's a couple days later instead of 1 day later, so I had to pull the carburetor body out of the Magic Parts Cleaner because I didn't want it to sit in there for 2 days. But as you can see, it has cleaned it up very nice. And then I just took some gum cutter and sprayed it off, sprayed gum cutter up in the holes, made sure that passage is clean, make sure that passage is clean. And then I took compressed air and I put compressed air and I blew through every single port and dried it off. So this is nice and clean and pretty now. I wish I could have showed you. So here is the float bowl. Remember what the float bowl looked before? Well, that's what it looks like now. This stuff does a super job cleaning it up. It might take a day, but it did a really good job. And then once again, I just took a can of 2+2 gum cutter and I sprayed this out nice and clean. So that's all ready. The float bowl bolt that holds the float bowl on that goes here. Remember, it had that nasty stuff on the end, so I just took it over to the wire wheel and cleaned it off, sprayed that off with gum cutter. The drain, same thing. Cleaned it off with a wire wheel and sprayed off gum cutter, so that's all set. So now, here is the jet. As you can see, the jet is more bleached on this end. So after you get done with the jet soaking, now you should be able to see light through that. And then what I always do is I have my torch tip cleaning tool, and I'll use the smallest one. You can't even see it on the camera probably. And I'll go up in there and I'll clean that out good, which I've already done. I've sprayed this out with gum cutter and blew air through it. And then the emulsion tube. The emulsion tube has like 7 holes on this side and 6 holes on this side. So I always start at the top, poke it all the way through and clean every, and this way you could do both sides at the same time. So I clean all these out, every single one. Now I turn and I do the other 6 on this side. Might have missed this one. So I clean all these holes out, and now I'll spray this off again with gum cutter. I think I used the can. And then this one here also has a very, very, very tiny hole in it. So we are going to run the same one through this tiny orifice and make sure it goes through, which it does. Clean that hole out, and we'll spray everything down with gum cutter. Let me go get a new can of gum cutter. We'll spray everything down. Oh, let me show you the float. I cleaned the float with my fingernail and gum cutter and a rag, and I've already put the needle back on. The needle has a spring, so you don't want to lose that spring. It just fits up here like so and engages right there. So that's all ready to be put back together. Here is the float pivot. It's all clean, ready to go. I already showed you the intake manifold. The gas is good. I'll just slide that back on the machine. And then we have the other gaskets that I have cleaned off. So let me go get a can of gum cutter and we'll blast these parts off. We'll start reassembling the carburetor. So I got my 2+2 gum cutter. And like I said, we're just gonna spray it through everything. Make sure that all the holes are open, which they are. Back through there. And I've already done all this. I've already cleaned it with gum cutter, so everything's back together. All right, so let's start assembling the carburetor. So now I'm going to start with a clean screwdriver. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the emulsion tube back in. Now the emulsion tube, as you can see, it kind of looks like a barbell down here. This end goes down, that end goes up. So it just falls right in the carburetor like so. Then the main jet goes in, and You want to find a screwdriver that fits these jets good. You don't want to use a screwdriver that doesn't grab the jet good, because sometimes these jets can be extremely tight. All right, so once you get it up in there, just give it a good tight so it doesn't move. That's in there. All right, let's go ahead and put the float bowl seal back in. All right, that's back in. Let's do the float. Now, the needle goes in the hole, so you want to make sure that it goes into the hole. Once it goes in the hole, now you put your pin in. Now the float bowl is what holds this pin in, so get it kind of even. So then you want to make sure that the float works and it's nice and free. See how free that is? That's perfect. All right, so let me go ahead and get the gasket back on the float bowl holder. So the carburetor mounts like so on the machine, so you want the drain pointing out. So the machine's here, it bolts this way. You want the drain facing out so you can get to it. Got my gasket on my float retaining bolt. That goes here. Go ahead and tighten that up. All right. Then you have the float bolt drain, which goes here. And you tighten that up. Okay, so now we have this idle bleed, idle jet, whatever it's called. This thing here has a flat spot and a flat spot. It matches up to the flat spot right there. It just sits here like that. And you just take and push it in. You can see it's seated right there, all the way in. All the way in there. So now you need to put the idle speed screw in. Now, like I said, I counted the turns on this, so we're going to go ahead and put it all the way back in. So it's all the way in. Now we're going to back it off 5 turns. So there's half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, and there's 5. And if you look, there's about 1 thread sticking out where it was. Okay, so there, the carburetor is all back together and set to go. We're going to go back over to the machine and start putting everything back on the machine. We are going to be putting a fuel filter on. I have a small fuel filter, which is 1/4 inch and 1/4 inch. We'll be putting that on the machine also. I don't know if I'm going to show this, but let me go put this back on the machine. I'll show you how to put it back on, and we'll go from there. Alrighty, I've got all my parts here. I got the machine here. Now I had to take this bolt out and this bolt out so I could move this a little bit to get the manifold out. So we're going to put the manifold back in. It goes this way and it holds these wires back, so it just slides on. Got to slide it on evenly. Make sure your wires are up out of the way, and that thing will push the wires out of the way. Actually, this is in the wrong spot. This needs to go. It's in the wrong spot. There we go. I think that's the way it was. All right, let me see. I can tell you if it was. Yeah, that's the way it was. Okay, so yeah. So you have all these electrical wires that get tucked behind the manifold, and that goes there. Then you put the bolts back in. I'll put the bolts back in a minute. Let me go ahead and hook the carburetor up. So now the next thing is a carburetor. The carburetor slides on this way. So we put the carburetor and start sliding it back. All right, So is there enough light? Yeah, okay, so we're gonna hook up the linkage. So the linkage, you push the carburetor on until the linkage lines up and you push it in, and that's in. So you've noticed the carburetor's not pushed all the way back. And now I'm gonna take a pair of needle nose and grab the spring and put the spring back in the hole. So now I can push the carburetor all the way back. So now the carburetor's all the way back. I need to put the fuel filter in. So I'm gonna go ahead and hook this line up. Okay, put this clamp down here. Okay, now on these other machines that I've done, I've been able to put the clamp there and it's not in the way of the linkage. So I'm gonna put the fuel filter right there. So let me go ahead and put the fuel filter in and we'll come back. Alrighty, as you see, I put the fuel filter in. What I did is I just cut a little piece of the fuel line out. I don't know what had happened to it. And then I just clamped it in. And now it doesn't hit that, so that's out of the way. So got to clamp the fuel filter and the clamp, so that's all taken care of. All right, so now we can continue on bolting the carburetor up. So this is the bottom part of the air filter. That plugs into there, and then whoops, and then we have a gasket. I don't know why there's a gasket here since it doesn't have an air filter, but then that goes there like that. And push that on, and then you got the two nuts. Oh, and I did have to finagle this wire. This wire actually has a place for it to sit in the manifold, so I had to move that. All right, so there's that. So now we have the upper air filter housing that goes on top here. It's like so. And if I'm not mistaken, here, I'm probably making it easier. This goes through here if I'm remembering right. Alright, if that's not where it goes through this other one. Let me see this go. It looks like, I'll have to go check the film, but I think it goes through that one and the wires go up through that one. So I'll go ahead and put this one in there now. Alright, then we have the two Phillips screws that hold this on. There's another Phillips screw that goes there, and then there's another Phillips screw that goes here. All right, so that's all complete. So now we have the cover. The electrical wire goes through the top here, and I'm going to put it on that side of that. Put the throttle about halfway. Where is that rod? So then it's just a point of getting everything lined up. You've got to get the throttle lined up, and you have to get the choke mechanism lined up. Usually I can do the choke first and then get the throttle. This one's being a little testy. There we go. Nope, there it is. All right, yep, there we go. All right. So then you just have the 4 screws that hold this cover on. You have 2 shorts, 2 longs. The shorts go here. there. And the other one goes there. And then we have a choke. Run and off. Alrighty, so we're gonna have to put some gasoline in it, and we'll put some gas in it, and we'll give it a try and see if it works. Alrighty, we got it outside. We haven't tried starting it yet, so let's see. So that's run, that's choke. We put gas in it. Let's go ahead and give it a couple pumps in the primer bulb and put it on rabbit, choke. I don't feel like pulling it over, so we'll use the electrical start today. Look at that. Auger's working. Machine moves. All right, everybody. That's how you rebuild a carburetor on a Cub Cadet snowblower. Don't leave gasoline in the carburetors. That's what this little drain is for. Right there, drain your float bowls, drain the tanks. The alcohol and the gas is tearing up your small equipment. All right, everybody, thanks a lot for watching. Please subscribe. You can always do that in that corner there. Please give me a thumbs up if you like the and more part of the channel.